the Cinema Judge!
Hello and welcome to the Cinema Judge. To all my regulars out there, welcome back. If you're new to the show, welcome aboard. And if you are new to the show, here's briefly what we do here at the Cinema Judge. We give you the evidence with clips and interviews, and you make up your own mind. We will never tell you not to see a movie. That's not our jam. We'll talk more about that later. But approaching the bench today, we have the new DC film, superhero film, Blue Beetle. Now here's the summarization of this movie. An alien scarab chooses a college graduate to be a symbiotic host, bestowing the teenager with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary and unprecedented powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero known as Blue Beetle. Here's a trailer.
Okay, I want to fly. Let's do this. Yeah!
You gotta force it to come out.
What do you... You're a genius.
What? I know. But what'd I say?
No!
Did you know what was gonna happen to my brother when you stuck him with this world-destroying thing?
It's called the Scarab. I had no idea it would activate. It has to choose you.
So how do we get it to unchoose me?
Host acquired.
Who said that?
Systems tracking 3,
Okay,
2.
it's gonna be okay.
Uptown, baby. I was down, but they see I'm up down, baby.
Host overreacting.
Overreacting? You kidnapped me!
When I hit you with that, you know.
Threat approaching. Engaging host protection.
Kick it like it's judo. And when we get in mode, I'ma dog it like I'm Cujo.
Threat eliminated.
Sorry about that!
Are they tryna steal away? Cut it out, cut it
What do
out.
you think the government is gonna do when they figure out that some kid has this military tech?
Bust it down, bust it down.
We are going to change the world with the power of the scarab. It belongs to me.
Watch out, watch out!
Not the way, but the way, don't stop.
Oh, he's pissed. Listen to me!
Uptown, baby.
You got the wrong guy! I'm a nobody! I swear!
I was down, but they see I'm up now, baby.
The world is a place to protect.
I have an arsenal at my disposal.
Anything, please!
Watch and learn, Jaime.
Whoa.
Whatever you can imagine, I can create.
Yeah, that's more like it.
That love you feel for your family makes you weak.
You're wrong. My family, that's what makes me strong.
Oh, I forgot how bad it looks.
Target the family.
Sorry, my mom.
Jaime?
You are a superhero, cabron.
Y'all take shots, y'all aim up. Whoa.
You're the Blue Beetle.
I could use that arsenal right about now!
Thought you'd never ask.
Hell yeah!
They been tryna stop the way, don't stop. Bust it down, bust it down.
Nana?
I advise we back away.
Uptown, I was down, but they see I'm up now.
Now after listening to that trailer, if you're unaware, this is a Latino-based superhero movie. And the majority of the cast is Latino. And that's great to see. Because, there's so many different varieties out there and so many different kind of superheroes. It's nice to see some other group, having their say or having their voice. So up next, we're going to hear from the director, Angel Manuel Soto. And he's going to talk a little bit about the character, the main character, the young man who's this alien type thing chooses him. He talks a little bit more about that. And then we're going to hear from the writer, Gareth Dunnett Alcocer. And if any time during the show, if I mispronounce any of your names, I truly apologize. But I just want to let you know, I try to listen to them all and try to write them all down properly. So no way do I mean any disrespect if it does not come out properly. But the writer talks about the tone of this film. And then he also talks about, and this part I really like about this interview, he talks about the younger him, how this 11-year-old would never believe that here he is today writing a movie for DC, and a Latino movie at that. So I just love hearing a writer who appreciates and acknowledges, wow, this is where I'm at. And maybe all writers do, and whatever, I don't know. But I know for me, for example, if I ever wrote anything in the world, I'd be like, yes! And it's just fun to hear that, the enthusiasm, and how happy somebody is that this is what they're doing, and they're doing it well. And it's really cool. Here they are.
Jaime is more than just a relatable character. I think Jaime speaks for a lot of the situations that we face in real life. He's a kid that believed in an idea of progress and is playing by the rules, and he's staying on his lane. His family came before he did, and they did all the hard work, and all of it has been headed for him to become this promise of progress and in the pursuit of the American dream. And once he follows the rules and comes back, he realizes that a lot of those things are not like they said it would be. That life often brings surprises, and to people like him, it's not as easy as go to college, come back, and make a career. And as he faces that reality of having to deal with existentialism within his family and within himself, and navigating life of a college graduate.
Its tone is it has to be funny. I've never met a Mexican person that wasn't funny. So there's no way the movie wouldn't be funny. But what kind of funny it is wonderful, and I think it's really inspired by the tone of the early Blue Beetle comics, where you have a hero that's fallible. Being a DC Universe writer is something that the 11-year-old me in Querétaro would have never believed. Where I come from, being not a storyteller, but a filmmaker, working in Hollywood, to my family, it's like, no mames, way, you don't know anybody anywhere remotely related to movie making. The leap is so insane that even now I either I'm waiting for something really bad to happen. I'm just kidding, not jinxing anything, but I have to pinch myself because I don't really, it doesn't dawn on me. Earlier when you were mentioning, oh, this is such an important thing, it's weird because when you're inside the thing, you get caught up in it. But every now and then, when I first started talking to Angel, when he joined the project, I kept telling him, man, the 11-year-old me would he wouldn't believe it.
I just love that interview. I don't know about you guys, but that just sounds so honest and legit. Now, what really excites me is where DC's going to go now under James Gunn. Because James Gunn is a brilliant filmmaker, director, writer, you name it. This was made before him, obviously. But I can't wait to see what direction he goes and what other characters he's going to bring in. Because obviously he's going to bring in ones that he enjoys and probably some characters that we don't know. Some superheroes that were kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy on the lower tier, for lack of a better word. But I truly can't wait to see where DC goes. Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from a couple producers. The first one is John Rickard, and he's going to talk about how this is a reluctant hero. He doesn't even want to become this character or this superhero. He wants to just live his life. And he talks about that. And then we're going to hear from another producer, Zev Foreman, and he talks about how this really stood out for him because he's been involved with this for quite a long time, like the whole DC universe and comics. But this one deals with family and the relationships and all that stuff. And it's just cool to hear about that, about a producer who's searching for a good character and good guts, and not just, okay, this is their abilities and we're going to have bells and whistles and have it be a multi-billionaire character doing all their fancy stuff with all their dough. This one is one of those grounded type ones where this is just a normal family and then how they deal with it.
What this story is for me is it's a reluctant hero's journey. And Jaime Reyes is an ordinary kid who finds himself in an extraordinary situation and doesn't want to be a superhero. So he and his entire family, their first instinct is our family member is in trouble and we got to get this thing out of him because he now has a target on his back. And literally it's a target on his back with the scarab. So I think when I think about what Blue Beetle is as a story, to me it is what a regular kid, a regular first-generation Mexican-American kid from a working-class family, what he would do if he actually had superhero abilities and didn't know why, but his first instinct is, I don't want this.
I've been a really big DC Comics fan for a long time, and I'd gone through so many characters looking for something that felt fresh and new, something that felt a little different from a lot of the other superhero movies that I had seen. And this one just stood out. You know, it stood out because of Jaime Reyes and his character. It stood out because of his family. It stood out because of, you know, the fun, the humor, you know, and from some of the other DC movies in particular. And I just felt like it was time. It was something that was exciting for the studio and something that was exciting for the superhero genre. And just wanted to do something that felt a little different.
I would love to watch the world of a producer, follow them around for a few months. What do they do? How do they work? How do they make a movie happen? And what do they leave in? What do they leave out? And what truly does a producer do? I mean, obviously they have the whole world on their shoulders. They're making a movie. But the process that he talks about, like finding these characters, doing what? How does he research it? And who is he talking to? Is he talking to the film industry guys, head of the DC, or what's the process? Because obviously it's not just putting his hand in a hat and pulling it out and going, oh, Blue Beetle, let's check it out, because you know there's rights to certain things and all this other stuff. But that would be a really cool reality show. That would be just fun, just watching what are the day-to-day activities of a producer. Are they always calling people, or always looking into stuff? What's their deal? I'd get behind that in a heartbeat. But I digress. Now, coming up next, like we talked about earlier, this movie leans heavily into family. And I'm going to have a lot of interviews coming up here talking about that. So I'm just going to get out of the way and let them talk, because that's what you're here for. You're there for them, not for me to go rambling on. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to have Bruna Marquezine, and she's going to talk about her character and the story. And then Xolo Mariduena, who plays Jaime / Blue Beetle, and I like that interview because he talks about what a joy it is to be playing this role. Because when he was a young man, his mom would buy these comics and read it to him, and then he talks about a little bit more about the character. But that little nugget there where he talks about as a kid reading the stories or having his mother read it to him, I just love that stuff. And then we're going to hear from the incredibly talented George Lopez. He plays Uncle Rudy. And he also talks about the family aspect of this movie. I mean, this movie has so many great actors in it. And then we're going to hear from Belisa Escobedo. And again, more about the family and just her insights. And then Susan Sarandon, and then the director. Like I said before, let me just step aside and let them talk, because that's what you're here for.
Blue Beetle is about this Mexican-American kid called Jaime Reyes, who just got back from college. And he found his family in a really delicate situation, especially financially, so he's now looking for a job. That's when he meets Jenny Court. Jenny, I guess she didn't help him, because she got him in a even more delicate situation. But from where I see, he should be grateful. Okay, so, because she's the responsible for turning him into Blue Beetle. But it's the story about Jaime and his family and the Scarab, and how he got chosen by the Scarab to be the next Blue Beetle. It's
a dream. Surreal is really the only word I can use for it, but you know, for as long as I can remember, Jaime Reyes is the biggest Latino superhero in the DC universe. So growing up, my mom was a huge fan of comics, and I think she kind of passed down that liking to me. And And it was always a dream to play this role and to get into this character. I think the most exciting thing about Jaime and Blue Beetle is, and we'll kind of get into this later, but the family aspect. You know, I really think a superhero movie hasn't really tackled that yet. You know, you see these superheroes and they're like perfect by themselves. They're like the perfect human beings. They're like, oh my gosh, he's buff. He can't do anything wrong. He always knows what to do. And I think, you know, a lot of the charm of Jaime is that, you know, he doesn't necessarily always know what to do. And you know, very similar to myself, you know, there's sometimes you're going through life and making decisions and not the surety of it all, and the knowing if what you're doing is the right thing isn't always there. But the support system that Jaime has because of his family, friends, yada, 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 is, I think, really what makes Jaime him. And I relate to that so much. My family is so integral in my comeuppance, in my growing up and everything, that they feel a little inseparable at the time or at some times, and Jaime definitely feels that way as well.
You know, the family as heroes, he mentioned that to me in the beginning, our first conversation. He said, you know, in most movies you see that, you know, the corporate industry wins or the company wins. But in this movie, the family's going to be the heroes. The family's going to save the day. And I thought, how's he going to do that? You know, and it's brilliant the way that it's done, because this family unifies to be heroes.
The family is super close-knit. I mean, I think there are no secrets within that family, just impossible. Very supportive in other ways. I know the art is a big one that they go against, but I think the mom is the only one. I think everyone else in the family is very much like, Milagro is just Milagro, and we love her for it. You know, we're not trying to change her. But the family, they do everything together. And sometimes that can be very frustrating. But yeah, they're super close-knit, and they've been through a lot together. There's definitely some strong bonds there.
The family's so much fun, but also is so sweet in their bond and in their priorities. And I think that these days we need that. You know, we need to see families that fight together for their survival in a real way, and who can clown around and be rough with each other and be funny, and sisters and brothers who tease each other and you know, but at the end of the day, are there for each other to the death, you know, and I think that's one of the best things about the film. One
of those things that's very special too is how to capture the warmth of the family, since on this origin story, the family, contrary to other superhero movies where the hero keeps a secret from everybody around him, the secret really happens in front of the family. So Gareth and I always said, like, good luck trying to hide a secret from your mom in a Latino household. They always know. And we kind of like embrace that. So this made it for a very unique journey where the family is part of the adventure. Not somebody, not a group of people or an object of rescue, but on the contrary, an integral part of the construct of this superhero.
Now, what I usually try to do with this show, I like to try to keep a little bubble where you can listen to the show anytime. You don't know maybe when it was or what's going on in the world, because there's a lot of noise out there, so I try to keep it in our little world here. But I just want to make one thing abundantly clear. I'm going to kind of break that rule for once. All these interviews were before the strike, so I don't want any confusion or anybody to think that these people did these interviews during the strike. Everybody who did these interviews from these kits that they send me were done before the strike. So in no way were these people crossing the line or anything of that nature. I just want to make that abundantly clear. Now, coming up first, we're going to have a clip here. Now, in this clip, it's the family sitting around the table, and they're talking about the scarab thing that the Blue Beetle / Jaime has. And he's at the table, and he lifts up his shirt, and there's this big beetle type thing, like on the spine. And everybody's like, oh man, I forgot what that looked like. Oh man. And the woman who gave it to him is explaining it to the family that, well, she didn't know about all the things that could happen with it, but makes it clear to them it chose him. So that's what's going on in this conversation. Everybody's like, oh man, but what I do like about this is he includes the whole family. It's not like he's running around with a secret all the time, trying to hide it, trying to do all that stuff, because that trope has been used a lot in any kind of movie of this nature where it's secret from the family and he has to keep it hidden. He includes the family, and it's all part of the decision. And I find that just refreshing. Now, up next, after that, we're going to have some interviews. We're going to hear from Xolo, who plays the Blue Beetle, the incredible George Lopez. We go back to Xolo, and then the great, phenomenal, incredible Susan Sarandon. Everything she's in. Her career has just been magnificent. If you don't know anything about her, just look into her career. So talented and just awesome. I would love to sit down and talk to her someday. Can you imagine the stories that she has to tell? Because, man, she's been part of Hollywood and TV and just probably has so much juicy stuff. I'd sign any NDA in the world. Just, the story she could tell. She's so talented. But that being said, here are those interviews.
What is he talking about?
He's talking about this.
Oh, I forgot how bad it looks.
I've seen worse.
Where?
You don't want to know.
Okay, what the hell is this thing?
It's called the Scarab. It was given to my dad when I was a kid. It's some kind of a world-destroying weapon.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
Nice.
And did you know what was going to happen to my brother when you stuck him with this world-destroying thing?
No, I swear to you, I had no idea this would happen.
I mean, come on.
My father said it can't be activated by just any person. It has to choose you. So I'm guessing it's chosen you.
The family aspect is one that this movie really hits right on the head, and sometimes getting to work along phenomenal actors that are playing my family, Elpidia, Damian, Adriana, Belisa, the whole core family. I look at them and I speak with them and I'm like, whoa! It from the get-go it felt like we were bonded for life, and we are now. But that is so. I haven't seen that in a superhero movie before, so I think the audience is really gonna relate to that.
It's so easy to quit on things once they get to be hard, and you may have time go by, and then you might see somebody that is doing something that you wanted to do, and then the only difference is that they did it and you decided not to do it. And with a lot of people who come from families where they aren't necessarily the most encouraging to each other, that animo would mean that there's some things you have to do for yourself. There's some fights you have to fight for yourself, and there's some times you have to speak up for yourself. And we're so used to having other people stand up for us. Animo is when no one else is around, and it's time for you to speak up for yourself.
The character of Blue Beetle is the story of someone who has been presented with this opportunity, and maybe while he's resistant at first, there's some times where you've been granted opportunities or you've been put into a position that maybe you feel like you weren't ready for. And how you navigate that, I think, is, the story that this will tell.
What I loved about this script and the experience of it is that it's people driven. In the end, the superpower is love and the family. And his whole journey of not wanting to accept responsibility is such an interesting one. I have 2 boys. And, going out into the world, which is primarily created for men, with an expectation that they rule the world, and then they come up against the reality of what they need to survive in that world as they start to get older, and it's not handed to them, and getting to the point where they take the challenge and accept their power and understand that nothing's going to come from the top, that they have to be their own hero. I think that's kind of the journey that he goes through.
Now, as we were talking a lot about family in this show, we have a clip for you up next. In this clip, Jaime is on top of a building, and he's there with some family members, and he's trying to figure out how to fly. And then you hear George Lopez say, well, maybe you have to kind of force it out. Maybe it has to, come out and do it on its own. He goes, that's a great idea. So then he steps back and they're like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he runs and jumps off the ledge, and then, whoa, the Blue Beetle emerges, and then whoo, he flies away.
Now!
Hi. Dude, no worries. Just take your time.
Thanks, Jenny. You gotta force it to come out. What do you... Hi. You're a genius.
What? I know. What'd I say?
You said this thing isn't gonna protect me, right? It's not gonna let me die?
No, I mean, we die.
All right, let's see if it works.
I wouldn't test it.
No.
Can you just imagine that? You have this power, you don't know how to use it, and you're trying to figure it out. That must be so frustrating. Because at the beginning there, when you hear him grunting, he's there kind of on the edge of the building, just putting his arms up going, and he just can't figure it out. In real life, what would any of us do? That's what I always try to imagine when they have these scenes in these kind of movies where somebody's trying to find their power and what to do with it. I try to imagine and get all the reality or unreality out of your head. What would you do and how would you attempt to try? Because if you attempt wrongly, you can be toast. So that's always that fun little balance of what would I do if put in that situation. Now, coming up next, we have some more interviews for you. And we're going to have first John Rickard, who talks a little bit more about the story. Then we'll hear from Xolo. And then the producer, Zev Foreman. And then we'll hear from the director. And then John Rickard again. And then Susan Sarandon.
What's great about the arc of our story is it's not like Peter Parker in Spider-Man. He doesn't all of a sudden just get this power and start swinging from buildings and having fun with it. He's trying to get it out, and he doesn't want to have fun with it. But the suit itself is booting up and taking him on a ride. And so he is a reluctant hero throughout the majority of the story until it becomes clear to him that this is his destiny, that he has to embrace it instead of trying to push away this thing that's being thrust on him. He has to embrace this power and use this power for good, and that he has been the one that is chosen for a reason. And so therefore, he must step up and become the superhero he was destined to be and protect his community and his family. And to me, that's such a great story and a very aspirational one for anyone. Teens, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, for myself in my 40s, for everybody. You can relate with somebody who's struggling with their identity and not sure who they should be, but then have this opportunity presented to them and have to make that choice to embrace it and become who you really are. And for Jaime Reyes, that is the superhero Blue Beetle. I also think the tone of our movie is what makes it so special and unique, because it has action, yes. Do we have superhero action? Absolutely. But we also have a lot of heart. This movie might make you cry, but it's also going to make you laugh. And you're going to have a good time. It's going to be a fun ride. And you're going to invest in this family. You're going to invest in Jaime Reyes. You're going to be with him on the journey. And at times it's fun. At times it's scary. And at times you're going to feel awesome because you feel like you're in that suit with him. And you're going to be that superhero with him as well, too. And I think that's what's so great about it. Jaime Reyes is just an average kid. And he gets to be a superhero. Even though he doesn't want it, he has to become it. And he makes that choice, and he does become the superhero that Palmera City desperately needs.
This family really, for better or for worse, is the driving force of everything that Jaime does. And I think you see that, and it's really just due in part to how much he cares about them, and that is an experience that I relate to and that I can connect with so easily, because my family is also so integral in everything that I do. And sometimes, it feels like we're on top of each other all the time, but those are the best types of relationships. And I think they really provided a support system for Jaime to help him, excel in everything that he wanted to do. And maybe now that he has the scarab, the plans are a little bit different, but their ride or dies. They see him for who he is, and they're gonna support him, and that really is such a important part of the story.
When we made Blue Beetle, and I think the secret to all the best movies, and especially superhero movies, is that there really is this, like, I call it like a soft and fuzzy emotional core that, has to do with humor and heart and emotion and family and relationships and, conversation, but it's wrapped in this like glossy, shiny shell of action and spectacle. And I think that's what this movie is, at its heart, the movie is about people. And I think, when you walk away from a movie like that, you're gonna feel something, You're gonna be hopefully blown away by the action, the spectacle, the fights, the crazy gadgets, the crazy locations, but you're also actually gonna feel for the characters and fall in love with them. A theatrical movie is a movie where you wanna stand up and cheer, where you wanna laugh with people around you, where you want to ask the questions of why are those people laughing, but I'm not, I think our movie delivers on all of those things in spades. It's fun, it's gonna make you, kind of like tap your foot, it's gonna make you jump out of your chair, it's gonna make you maybe even shed a tear. And that's what the enjoyment of all movies should be in a theater, and I think Blue Beetle, as I said, is the perfect movie to experience there.
The relationship between Jaime and the Scarab is interesting because it's not necessarily his conscience, but he can hear him in his head. He can have this conversation that if you were to see him as a third party, it looks like Jaime is talking to the air like a crazy person, but he's actually having a conversation with the voice in his head, who is the Scarab. And at first, the Scarab's mission is kill, kill, kill. And Jaime is not that type of kid. So every time the Scarab wants to do something of his nature, Jaime's reaction and his good-heartedness steps in the way of the Scarab's mission and creates this banter between them that sometimes is funny, but at the same time is enlightening. Because as the story progresses and uncertain events happen in Jaime's life, the Scarab also learns from Jaime, and the Scarab starts to become more and more compassionate, eventually being a voice of reason to Jaime towards the end, as opposed to the way it started, where Jaime was the voice of reason to the Scarab.
There are so many facets about Angel that make him the perfect director for this movie, and I guess I'll kind of just back up to what's great about the DC universe in general. What's great about DC is they allow their filmmakers to shine in their movies. Aquaman is a big spectacle James Wan movie, and you can see that as soon as you sit in the theater and you watch that movie, you're immersed in that underwater world. And then there's the James Gunn Suicide Squad, which is like a 70s caper film wrapped up in this fun comedy. It has its own look and vibe and texture to it. Let's see, Aquaman, Shazam. Shazam is its own fun world that caters to a younger audience, but also is its own tone. And I think what Angel is bringing to this is authenticity. Number one, about the Latin culture and what it feels like to be in that world. Also, in our casting, he was very deliberate about making sure that they were authentic to those roles as well. And then he brings this other untangible piece to him that, as I've gotten to know him over the last couple of years, he not only understands pop culture to a T, he's immersed in it, but he's also a tastemaker within it. And there's something about the look that he's going to bring to this movie, the way that Palmera City is going to look and feel. There's nothing like it.
I just love Angel, and I love the people that he assembled, and I love that, again, there was so many Spanish, the and the crew too, not just the actors, but the crew, the costume designer, and so many of the people on set. So we had such a nice hybrid of cultures that was going on, and he was so passionate and at the same time so playful, and you don't find that combination that often.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Blue Beetle. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve the show, let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, or go to Instagram, The Cinema Judge, go to YouTube, go to almost any social platform out there and let me know, because I can't grow if I don't know. I would love your feedback. Like I said, you go to YouTube, you go to anywhere. I would love to know what you guys think, because that's what this is all about, sharing movies, whether it be a blockbuster or independent film, anything in between. Because we all want to spend our hard-earned money wisely, because we all want the same thing, an enjoyable movie experience. So feel free to try to find me on any of the podcast platforms, Threads, YouTube, Pinterest, Tumblr, Hive, Mastodon, TikTok. So if you're on TikTok too, drop me a line. Usually I just drop little videos there too about the TV version. And if you want to watch this on demand, you can watch it anytime you want. Go to bit.ly/cinemajudge. bit.ly/cinemajudge. This will be there on demand, and you don't see or hear me at all. All that is completely show. Interviews, scenes, and everything in between. Some shows also has B-roll, because we can't do B-roll on here because it's really hard to understand what's going on when it's just a scene and nothing. You know what I'm saying. So if you want a little more, go watch the TV versions, because a lot of times there's more on there than just what's on here. And also, if you ever are in a metaverse, if you ever have one of those systems where you could go online, go to like Horizon Worlds or Ace of Clubs, laser tag, stuff like that. I'm usually there late at night, just hanging out, talking the movies or talking about movies to people. So that's really a fun way to talk and get together and just banter about movies. So go to the metaverse, Ace of Clubs, laser tag, and things of that nature, or just look up Cinema Judge, and I'll be around there somewhere. Now it's one of my favorite parts of the show. This is where I give shout outs to everybody who listened to the last episode. And you might be asking, hey buddy, I listened to a lot of the old episodes. Hey, I really love that, and when I see that happen, I just do a little happy dance. But that stuff's much more hard to find out where and all that other stuff. I just go last episode, and I go from there. And it's just a ballpark guesstimation. It could be, your tower could be 100 miles away from where you are. So if you think, hey, I listened to your episode and you didn't mention me, it's all based on the towers and all that other jazz, or who knows how that stuff works. This is just a general consensus, or whatever you want to call, about where people listened. So, but truly, I just love hearing how people listen to the show, whether it be 2 weeks from now, 2 years from now, or if you're driving to work, at work, on your break, or just driving your car. Some people are long drivers, either for their work or visit people, and they just push play and they let it ride, listen to one show after another. Or some of you use this as a nightlight, where before you go to night, you just want some background noise. You put on the show and let it go all night. I don't care how you listen. I'm just glad you do. And if you like it enough to share it with people, that's great. But if that's not your jam, I totally get that. I'm not here to be that guy where you say, you must share it. Only if you like to or like it. So wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. All my listeners from the United States, Canada. Thanks, Canada. I don't know if you're sharing the show or listening to more than once. That's great. Thank you so much, Canada. And same thing with Germany. You guys are always here, listening to the show, sharing it. It's amazing. You guys, I just salute you. Same thing with Poland. You guys, thanks for listening, sharing, and just being there. I really, really appreciate that. Same thing with Japan, Hong Kong, Uzbekistan, Spain, just to name a few. Minneapolis, Minnesota, Toronto, Ontario, Charlotte, North Carolina, Brampton, Ontario, Gilbert, Arizona, Parker, Colorado, Valencia, California. You guys are awesome. Ankeny, Iowa. Is that right, guys? Ankeny, Iowa. Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota. And then, boy, this one, BYDGOSZCZ, KUJAWKO. Thank you so much for listening. And then Adachi, Tokyo. Is that right, guys? Thank you so much. Highland Ranch, Colorado. Jardins Lookout Wachai, or CHAI. Bukhara. Guys, I'm so sorry. I mean not to destroy your name there, but thank you. And then Almeria. And that's just to name a few, guys. And now for this week's bourbon shout out. This week, it goes out to Julia, the physician assistant. Let me tell you, this woman is so talented, so fun, energetic, informative. It's incredible what this woman does, and she's a Ironman competitor and all these things. Her and her husband do this stuff, and they both are in that realm of sports and athletics, and they're just incredible. So it's always fun talking to her because she shares such cool stories, what her husband does and what she does. And she doesn't treat us like patients at all. She's just like engaged and informative and just 100% top notch. So to you, Julia, cheers. Now, for you who tune in every week and listen to the show, you know when I'm editing this to make it the TV version, I'm cranking the tunes. I'm in my happy place. Movie and music. In every movie, I just get a different feel. Sometimes I jump all over the place. This week, when I was doing this particular episode, I went back to the 80s and 70s a little bit, and I first started off with Kiss. And I tell you what, guys, I just love their stuff. And I have so many memories with them. And the best part about them is I don't think there's any additional baggage that comes with that band for me. You know what I mean? Like when you listen to a band, a lot of times it conjures up memories of this, that, or whatever. For them, it's just my youth, just collecting they even had like trading cards back in the day. And on the back of those cards was like a picture, but then when you put it all together, it showed this big, giant Kiss thing at the concert, you know, when the lights are all shined up. And I remember collecting the Kiss cards and all that stuff. And I don't know if I've seen any other band more than them. I'm not too sure. It's between them and to my credit, at least I have variety. Between them, Air Supply, REO Speedwagon, and maybe Eddie Money maybe. But yeah, between REO Speedwagon, Kiss, and Air Supply, I maybe seen them around the same amount. I can't remember. But they were such an integral part of my growing up. So I put on them first. Because again, I like all their eras. Like from the 70s, even their disco era was fantastic. I don't care what you say. Judge me all you want. Put on some classic Kiss, and you'll see what I'm saying. And some of that early stuff was just top notch. It's like, oh man, when they're all tight and working as a unit, it was just wonderful. And then, of course, every band evolves. You know, then they got more, air quote here, commercial and more radio friendly and all that kind of stuff, which, hey, I get it. And it was still great stuff. So I started off on them. But then I cranked through one of their greatest hits, one that I have, and on my phone, I have Amazon Prime Unlimited, so I make up my own Kiss folder. So I have all their albums there and ones picked out that I really like. Then I moved on from that. Then I went to Metallica because, again, Metallica, come on. They just jam on. I first listened to Injustice for All. That's the first, when I was making this, I was listening to Injustice for All. Just a great album. Just kicks and smokes, and it's just wonderful. And then after I finished that one, then I went to the folder that I have on my phone for them, and then just played some of the top ones that I really, really dug. So that's what I was kind of the mind frame when I was making this particular show. Well, that is it. My glass awaits. I'm thirsty. So cheers to you and to the movies. So till next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.